I wonder if the members would all come to order, and we'll get started in just a second. There. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate that. So we're here today at Law Amendments Committee, coming back to Bill number 59, and I had just a few remarks about the setup of today's meeting. And again, I'd like everyone to know that we're being live streamed today, and that we also have the what do we call it? Transcription. It's being everything that's said is written. And we have the American Sign Language as well. So those are important things. I think we have some large copy. Print copies are here of the Act, which will get circulated as well, so that people can look at the changes to the Act. And that's for the people that are here present today. And again, when you're speaking, because you know it's live streamed, it's good just to provide the context of what we're doing here. So the Law Amendments Committee, as you know, the last time we met, we were hearing from the public. We had quite a number of I'm trying to think of the number, but it was a day and a half of presentations that we had. And we had agreed to do a lot of work in the meantime to look at what had been proposed and to come back here to the table. So I wanted to let everyone know that 4 meetings have been held, some extensive meetings with the Bill 59 Alliance, which is a group of 35 different organizations that have come together. The meetings were our staff working on changes that had been proposed and looking for what was possible and what was not, and coming up with the amendments we'll look at today. So I wanted to be sure that everybody knew that we had the opportunity to hear from the public, and today is the opportunity to look at what has come out of the presentations we heard and the work that's been done in the meantime. Now, just before we begin, I understand that in the last meeting, I was reminded that we had a couple of motions on the floor at that time. And if I could, there was one, I believe, from both the NDP and another motion from the Conservative caucus. And perhaps I could call you, Sterling, to speak to the motion that you had, and perhaps you tell us what your intent is.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Certainly in terms of this particular motion that was tabled earlier, it seems that the department has consulted with the disability community, and that the preamble, the purpose, and the principles presented by the Community Alliance have been considered in the redrafting of this bill. And as in your earlier comments, Madam Chair, you identified the 4 public meetings, and therefore I would love to withdraw that motion.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's just withdrawn. And then if I could, Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Along the lines of my colleague next to my right here, we had also been considering putting a motion forward to basically send the bill back to be reviewed again. So we would like to withdraw that motion as well. We are very pleased with how progress was made on this particular bill, and it certainly was an opportunity for all of us to become engaged collectively. And I also want to thank the staff today for giving us a briefing on it. It was very well explained to us. We will be taking it back to caucus this evening, and I just want to say I think it's a lesson for us all to realize that there really is no rush for any bill to go forward. When there's changes that can be made, and good changes, I think this is certainly one that we all took our time to listen to one another, and I just want to thank you for that. So I withdraw that motion.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm reminded that I was asked by a member of our audience today, or the public, if we would introduce ourselves before we begin our discussion. So perhaps I could start, I'll start on this side if I could with you, Sterling.
Good afternoon. I'm the MLA from Queen Shelburne.
Hello, my name is Carla McFarland, MLA for Pictou West.
I'm Chris D'Entremont. I'm the MLA for Argyle-Barrington, sitting in for the Honourable Alpha MacLeod.
Okay. How about Mr. Hebb?
Gordon Hebb, the counsel to the committee.
Thank you. And I'm Diana Whalen. I'm the chair of the Law Amendments Committee and MLA for Halifax-Clayton Park.
Karen Kinley, Legislative Counsel and
Halifax,
Assistant Clerk of the Committee.
Park West.
Good afternoon. I'm Terry Farrell. I'm the Vice Chair of the committee and the MLA for Cumberland North.
Patricia Arab, MLA for Fairview Clayton Park.
Joachim Stroink, Halifax, Shabukto.
Stephen Goff, MLA for Sackville Beaverbank, sitting in for Brendan McGuire, MLA for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you very much to all the members for doing that. And I would like to call, if I could, on Mr. Farrell.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just begin by saying usually before the committee when we propose amendments to a bill, we'll be presented with the document that'll be circulated that'll set out the amendments alone. In this case, because the consultation and consideration of the bill has been so extensive, we have prepared and circulated a reprinted version of the bill. It shows not only the final form of the bill that I intend to move be referred back to the House, it does show all of the original text of the bill as it was originally presented to the committee. It shows the deletions or omissions which are in red print and struck out, and it shows additions which are in blue type. So the entire bill is being reprinted according to that formula. So based on that, Madam Chair, I hereby move that Bill 59 be referred back to the House with the amendments as set out in the reprinted bill recommended by the Minister of Justice as circulated.
Oh, thank you very much. And further to that, could I call on Mr. Stroink?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I guess first, before I start, there needs to be some acknowledgements made on this bill. This bill is one that has been shown that people work hard together, can get something that they believe in through by working together. The Department of Justice, led by Catherine Berliner, who I have to say has been unbelievable as she's in Mexico enjoying the sun right now. On the night that she was left, she and I were texting till about 1 o'clock in the morning, working through questions of the bill that I had for her. And then her colleague, Andrea Malone. You guys have done a fabulous job working with the Coalition 59 group. And I want to have a special shout out to them because this group shows that a group of people can come together with one cause and one mission to make this province better. And by working together, show that can be done. So, Jerry Post, thank you. Will Brewer, thank you. Barb Legay, thank you. Linda Campbell, thank you. Amy Parsons, thank you. Clarendon Robichaud, thank you. Steve Esty, thank you, and Parker Dunham, thank you. These folks showed all of us around the table what working together with government can show us and what can come about today. So with that, I'm going to kind of walk people through the room. Some of the main highlights that we've accomplished with this group and government. And really the changes that we showed during Law of Amendments. And I was very fortunate to sit through the whole Law of Amendments session, and I listened intently and had the opportunity to go to dinner with the Bill 59 Coalition that night. And we had a long conversation during dinner, and I learned a lot more on top of the information that was provided with Law of Amendments. So that was a very humbling experience to go through as an elected official. So kind of going through the accessibility proposed amendments that are coming forward. So let's start with the preamble. So the preamble now includes the reference to full diversity of people with disabilities, impact of disabilities on poverty and government taking a leadership role. So that's kind of on page 1. This was a recommendation, one of the many recommendations. And then going from there, I'm going to kind of jump around. I'm going to try to articulate what the changes are so that it's clear for everybody here. So section 2 is a key one, 2C. We'll start there. A timeline was added to the bill. And so it's really working with Nova Scotia to have it by 2030 is that this bill will be completely completed. Now, what people need to understand that in the standards piece, which I'll talk about a little later, in Ontario, it roughly takes about 2 years to go through each standard with the consultation that needs to occur. So that's why there is a target for 2030. And so we're working towards that. The other thing that we've done, I think, is use stronger language. And we've used achieved rather than approved. And so this really articulates the importance of really hitting the goals that have been asked by the people with disabilities and their advocates to really make sure that we're achieving them and not trying to just make it a little bit better. And then with the standards, where I just talked about, which is Section 2A, roughly there's 6 standards on that. They are the deliver and recipient of goods and service, information and communication, public transportation and transportation infrastructure, employment, the build the environment, education. And there is a 7th line there, which is allowing for other opportunities during the commissions or during as this bill progresses, that if there's more standards needed, there is an ability to add them on through the group. So that's a great addition to that. So from there, we're going to go down to includes the dual function of the Accessibility Directorate. So this is on page 2, section 2, talking about in supporting the accessibility legislation as well as dealing with the disability-related issues. So the Accessibility Directorate will be leading this charge. The other one, which is what was requested from the Bill 59 group, the minister is now, from Community Services, is now the Minister of Justice. So that's a positive accomplishment. Now I want to kind of go on to what the board membership will look like. So if you go to page 6, and then page 6, section 13. So persons with disabilities now represent the majority on the board. Government representatives will be invited to participate on the Accessibility Advisory Board as a non-voting member, depending on the standard being developed, and will participate on relative standard development committees. So this, again, is in the act. It allows a stronger voice within the group within the community. So, and then from there, which I'm very happy about, and Will and I were just chatting about this, is the definition of the disabilities, which is on section 3I. Let me find that for you. So that's back on page 3. So this is one that we heard over and over again in law of amendments, was the definition. So the disability includes a physical, mental, intellectual, learning, or sensory impairment, including episodic disability, and that in interaction with a barrier hinders an individual's full and effective participation in society. So, I mean, that to me is it's a much better definition, and I'm happy to hear that. That's also, just so you understand, it's a very much broader than the UN's definition of the disability. So I'm proud to say that we're leading the way on that one. So now in section 3 also, we want to discuss the built environment. So this also has been modified to the Minister's Advisory Panel definition of the human-made space in which people live, work, learn, play, and includes buildings and rights of way and outdoor spaces. So that's a very key aspect of that. To really the future developments going on, we'll look at how buildings are built and ensuring that there is a say within that. And then also including that, we've added the public sector body, which is in section 3P and J, which talks about government buildings, universities, and prescribed organizations. So again, trying to really broaden our scope on the discussion. Now, we've also added a bunch of things, and I'll give an example of this, but the discretion of the minister has been removed in some sections and now reflects some mandatory action. So I'll give you an example of that. It was just on section 18, which is on page 7. The board shall, with the approval of the minister, establish standards development committees to assess the board with making recommendations in the minister on the content and implementations of accessibility standards. So that's an example of what that's going to look like. And with that, there's an additional transparency with more documents to be made publicly available in this process. So those are also very good listening from the Bill 59 group, and it shows again everybody working well together. You know, there is an implementation strategy, which we'll kind of go over on page 4. Page 472. So this is a really key part of the bill. Within 1 year of coming into force of this act, the minister shall adopt and make publicly available an implementation strategy setting out how the minister plans to achieve the goal of accessible Nova Scotia by 2030. So this is a really important timeline for us as government officials to really understand how are we going to get there, and putting this in the bill really puts it holds the feet to the iron, as we would say, to make sure that we get to the direction that we want to get to. Then the other one, so with that, we wanted to go within an economic analysis, because we did hear from those organizations. You know, that's page 8. Section 21 and 22. So here we're talking about ensuring that economic analysis remains a requirement for determining when standards will be implemented. And that's just a clarity on that for everybody. So that's on section page 8. So it's on page 8. I don't know if you found that there. And now I'm going to go to the compliance and the enforcement piece. And I think this is a very important page. This is on page 12.
If I could just interrupt for 1 second, I was reminded we have some large print copies. The page numbers won't be the same if you have a large print copy. And that, I do apologize for that. We've got the regular print size. So just to make them, if you're using the section numbers, that would be good.
No worries. I will just use the section numbers. Sorry. So next one is section 45, which deals with compliance and enforcement, and the minister shall appoint a director of compliance and enforcement. This has been added and replaces the minister's involvement, and the minister may review decisions of the inspector, providing reports to the minister and director and board. Now, the nice thing about that part of that also is that there will be fines associated with that, and that is on section, let me find it here, sorry. In essence, the fines will be up to $250,000 for non-compliance of the Disability Act. This is a hefty fine to ensure that businesses and organizations will comply with the Disability Act, and it is in line with other provinces like Ontario and Manitoba, where Ontario it's $50 a day for every day that you do not comply. So we're 50,000, sorry, 50,000 of compliance. So it's a really important number that businesses understand that this is the sincerity behind the fine is there. The other section is incentive-based measures. The minister has the power to recommend incentive-based measures to help meet or exceed standards. So that's section 38. I can find it myself. So Section 38, where the minister believes it is the public interest to do so, the minister may recommend the Government Council prescribe incentive-based measures to encourage and assist an individual or organization or a class of individuals or organization to meet and exceed an accessible standard. So that's also another positive thing. So I guess what we're trying to show that there is a lot of changes within this bill, and then that are for the better. The last one I'm going to kind of touch on, which is Section 64. And I think this is really to help us all ensure that we get the right data as we go along this road, because this is new and there's going to be a lot of information coming at us. The director shall maintain a database of all the complaints of non-compliance, inspectors, visits, orders, issues, directorate reviews, notices of the administrative penalties and appeals, and shall provide the minister with a summary report annually or at any more frequent intervals as requested by the minister. So, you know, as you look at this bill, and that's just kind of the highlights of it, there's a lot of changes in this, and I guess that's what really makes this bill a very historic moment, because, you know, this shows that partisan politics does not have to play into creation of a bill. This is showing that when a community comes together and government works with the community, we can really establish some fundamental game changers within Nova Scotia. And I think that's spoken very clearly in the press release by Bill 59 Community Alliance, where I'm not going to read the whole press release, but I think we really need to look at one sentence that I commend them for writing is, we appreciate the government's openness and responsiveness. We appreciate the opposition's party giving government the political space to make changes. This really articulates the ability for us to work together on this issue, and I can't be more prouder, and I don't think every one of us around this room are very proud of where we've come to from where it was. And so with that, I'm going to just, I'm sure there's a little bit more back and forth, and I'm sure the opposition would like to have some comments. But again, I encourage that we really, I look forward to this bill going back into the House with unanimous consent, and that all parties will support this going forward, because it is a very, very good thing for the province of Nova Scotia.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Stroink, for going through a lot of the highlights of those changes. I do have one name on my speakers list, and that would be Mr. D'Entremont.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Strink, for your presentation on that. Also, you know, from an opposition side, there's a number of instances in here where there are reports to be produced into the House of Assembly. So not only does the government hold on to some of that data, but there's an opportunity to make all that data public so that we, as a public, can keep a government, you know, feet to the fire and make them keep sure that they're accountable to what they're actually saying. You know, of course, there's a number of things in here that are wholesale changes, and I think kudos to the government for listening. The only caveat that I would say, you know, in our process, and this is sort of a problem with our process, is now that we have the new bill sitting in front of us, and yeah, we have the press release from the organization, but it would be nice also to hear from the organization for a few moments to understand that their support for the bill before we go forward. But I don't know if there's time for that within our process to either hear from Mr. Dunham or anybody else, just to solidify their support. Just it helps us as opposition as well to understand that the work has been done in a wholesome manner.
Thank you very much. Mr. Beliveau?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And certainly, you know, it's been very little time since we was handed the amendments to this new version of Bill 59. Certainly, there's a lot of material, Madam Chair, and I noted the government speaker, the last government speaker. Actually, I made some notes here, and he said there was a lot of changes in the two possible renew bills. So. Again, regarding the process, the procedure is that certainly I want to take it back to my caucus, my colleagues, for a thorough review and possible consideration for amendments during the committee of the whole. So, and again, I want to thank the community, as you pointed out, Madam Chair, the overwhelming the public support, and we'll be reviewing that material and looking forward to continuing through the process in law committee of the whole. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I know it's important for you to brief your caucus as well. So, Mr. D'Entremont?
And just further to my comments, I mean, I don't want to open the Pandora's box here, but, you know, would there be a spokesperson on behalf of the Bill 59 committee that could say a few words without opening up? I know we don't want everybody to speak for 15 minutes for the next 6 hours, but, you know, just to understand their support for the bill over and beyond the press release that they provided. I don't know who it would be, and I'm sorry to put them on the spot there.
Okay. Certainly, when you just mentioned that earlier, I did speak to the clerk and say, I know that's not the usual, but he said it's up to the chair to do that, and I'd certainly I think we'd all be happy to hear from a spokesperson for the group. I think it's a good suggestion, really. So maybe, Jerry, would you come forward? Jerry Post, on behalf of the committee. Or the Alliance. I think that is a good suggestion, and you know, we have been working very closely together. I really appreciate the kind comments about our staff that have worked with you. I'm going to take that back to them for sure. But if I could, maybe we'll turn the mic over to Mr. Post. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As you know, we've been extensively involved in helping redraft this bill. I'd say, you know, we're pretty happy with the outcome. Still some work that needs to be done in certain areas, but generally we would like to see this bill go forward, hopefully this week, and then be passed by the legislature.
Any question, Mr. D'Entremont? Sure. I'll give you the opportunity. Mr. D'Entremont.
Sure. I'm just wondering if there's anything specific within it that that maybe was a little bit of work to get the government to listen to, or did you find that the process was, you know, well done? And maybe you speak of extra work that needs to be done. I mean, this is by 2030. There's a number of things to hit during the way. You know, maybe are there any concerns that you know we've got some time to get it done?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in terms of content of the bill, if I were to sort of rank the province on that, I give you a B+. Well done. On the process, I'd give the government an A+ on that, and particularly the staff that they had engaged. As Mr. Strunk said, is that we had some stellar help from staff within the Ministry of Justice, and we have to compliment them for listening, for being patient, being very professional. They didn't agree with everything that we said, but there was a good back and forth. So I think in the end, they have an A now in comprehension of what our needs are too, and that's really important. Is the whole awareness of what some of the barriers are, such as getting into the bathroom at the Ministry of Justice, came out of this. So we're making progress and we're happy. Let's hope that the opposition supports this bill, and we have to thank the parties for not making this a political issue during this time in particular. Thank you very much. Good.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I really appreciate your stepping up without any notice. That was very good of you. I think that answers. Mr. Beliveau, did you want to ask?
Can't forgive me if I missed the opportunity, but there seems to be a lot of work here. A lot of people made reference to the public and your Alliance 59. Is there something in here that's not captured? Because there is a lot of information in there. Is there something that...
There's two areas in particular, I think, where we need to do more work. One is on housing, in particularly for independent living. We still have a lot of people in institutions. We need to move them out. So that's one area. And the other area is assistive technologies and accessibility services, as you see here today, is to make this the norm when providing government services and other things. So those are two areas that still need some work.
Thank you. Mr. Strunk. Your turn.
Thank you, Jerry. And on those two issues, I think in this bill there's room to allow those to be discussed and explored further. Like that, those doors are not closed on those two topics. Is that a fair assessment to say? Because
we certainly understand that.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear that they're still being flushed out, and to ensure that this doesn't get used as an opposition. Like, this is a good news story, and there is a lot of positiveness in this, and so those are going to be addressed, I think, further on.
I have to echo that. Let's move forward on this week.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much again. So, I think if there's no further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Post, for coming forward to share that with us. We really appreciate it. And we have a motion on the table to refer this bill back to the House. There'll be discussion time there, of course, with Committee of the Whole and third reading, which are the next two steps to finalize the bill, and time for some questions and answers at that point, I'm sure. So if that's good, let's have the motion on the floor is to refer this bill as amended back to the House. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Then that is passed. Thank you very much for your help. And I'm very pleased. Thank you. That's great. Isn't that nice? We don't do that very often. Thank you very much. I think we all wanted to clap for that. So thank you. And with that, we are adjourned then, and we'll see everybody tomorrow at the House. Thank you.